Sup peeps, my name's Ian, and typically I sell books on eBay. Sometimes I forget to put a microphone on, but I've done that now, so hopefully everything sounds okay. Today I'm not selling books on eBay. Well, I am, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I wanted to share a wee bit of a book haul. So the last 2 or 3 days I've picked up quite a few for my own collection, so I just thought I'd share them, show you what they are, show you what I want to be reading. And also The Stand by Stephen King. So it's been recommended so many times. Every booktuber you see recommends it, says it's great, says it's brilliant, says it's amazing. So I love Stephen King. I've read a lot of Stephen King, haven't read them all, evidenced by the fact I hadn't read The Stand to date. So the last couple of weeks I've been giving it a go. We'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, book haul. So you've seen this already if you've been watching any of my videos. Lonesome Dove, Larry McMurtry. I've had my eyes out for it for absolutely donkeys. Never saw it anywhere, you know, in the charity shops for that kind of decent price, and gave up, bought it on Amazon. So it was like 11 quid or something on Amazon. Yeah, so I bought it. It's next to read after the one I'm on at the moment. And then when I was in the shops yesterday, stick that over the way, hey, I finally found it. Who'd have thunk it? Like a day before I'm due to start reading it, and I found a copy. Who would have thunk it? It's in pretty good condition, so I'll get that listed up on eBay. Keep the nice new copy that I've got to read myself, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, a nice pickup, but frustrating nonetheless. Also, now I do have these in different editions, but I just see old tatty paperbacks. I like them. I know I shouldn't, but I do. Jaws, I've got umpteen copies of it, you know, listed or to list, but I decided I wanted another one for my shelf, so I've got that one, and it's just tatty enough without being knackered that it'll do quite nicely. So only a wee break in the spine, but a kind of well-read cover, not too much discoloration on the pages. So I've got myself a wee copy of Jaws. Brilliant book, you should read it if you haven't. And an edition of The Godfather that I've not seen out and about before. So it's obviously it's the movie tie-in edition that came out, you know, 50 pence way back in the day. Now it's manky. It's not fit to sell, I don't think, if I chose to do so. But again, I like that cover. I know it's really just kind of the movie image, but again, great book, one that did not disappoint, unlike The Stand. So I've got that, and that will be going on my shelf as well. And the other, they're all kind of movie books here. Again, this one it's a shame because it's actually worth a few quid if it's in good condition, but it is broken, not even acceptable to sell, not too much discoloration, but it's the movie tie-in of Carrie. So again, a great book, a great Stephen King book, and just cool cover, wee bit tatty, a wee bit loved, and all of these books are about the same age as me, so nearly 50 years old for all of these. So I picked up those 3, which is no big deal, but yeah, I like the look of them, so I thought I would have them. Also, I got another Terry Pratchett for the collection. Again, one I've had in the past, but it's been and gone. So The Last Hero, the big illustrated edition, lots of lovely pictures. I don't recall it being the greatest Terry Pratchett book, but it is a big beautiful book, so that'll be finding a place on the shelf with the Terry Pratchett collection as well. So we'll stick that over there. Next, I've already sat this one on the shelf. Now, I've been collecting John Connolly, Charlie Parker novels. Again, a favourite. I've pre-ordered the latest one to come out. I've got quite a few hardcovers, so I'm just trying to get the hardcovers and then get hardcovers first edition, then get hardcovers first edition signed, just keep upgrading the collection. Got a few signed copies, I've got a few first editions, but then I found a wee paperback of Dark Hollow, which I already have. Nice wee first ed. But I just grabbed this because I always grab John Connolly. But look, it's a signed copy. So it's not an official part of my hardcover collection, but it's a wee signed John Connolly, one of my favourite authors. So I thought I'd just grab that for myself and keep it on the shelf. It's a bit twisted, so I'm going to get it under some weight and see if I can press it back into shape. If I was to try and sell it, it really wouldn't be worth much because of the condition, which is a shame because it is a signed copy. But that's up there with my John Connolly books. And another author that I've had my eyes open for, I've been looking for a wee while. Any title really. I've read 3 of their books quite a few years ago, and they were brilliant. It was like I picked up a trilogy and could not put it down until I'd finished all 3 books. You know, it was one of those where, you know, you're walking about. I was actually away on a caravan holiday when I read it, but you're just walking about constantly reading these books because you have to know, you have to know, you have to know. And that was, I'm going to make sure I get the title right because no doubt it's written on the inside of this one somewhere. Yes, the Wayward Pines trilogy. So Pines, Wayward and The Last Town. Absolutely brilliant. Love them. And I've kind of had my eyes open for other Blake Crouch books ever since and not really seen them. Or not noticed them, I should say. But I found this one. The one I wanted was, where is it? Can't even see it on the list of books they have written. Dark Matter. Dark Matter, that's the one that I keep hearing about and the one I wanted to read. But I was open to whatever appeared. So we found a copy of Upgrade by Blake Crouch. Nice wee hardcover, first edition. So thought, well, that'll do nicely. And then on further investigation, it's yet another signed book. So that's quite a nice wee one to add to the collection. It's got a reasonable bit of value if I was to sell it, but I really want to read it, so I'm going to keep that one. If it's amazing, like the Wayward Pines, I will keep it. If it's alright, I'll just punt it, because like I say, it's got a wee bit of value being the signed copy. So yeah, quite happy with that one. Blake Crouch, Upgrade. That's in the to read pile. The last one I picked up, which I didn't see and go, oh, I want that for myself. I just saw it and thought, oh, that looks interesting. And then only once I got back, I actually had a look at it and thought, yeah, I could read that. Let's read what it says on the inside. Dust jacket, and then I'll tell you what it is. So, a tightly woven tale of murder, betrayal and vengeance enter the world of the Titans. Carl Sounder is a detective working for the police on certain very sensitive cases. So when he's called in to investigate a homicide at a local apartment, he's surprised by the routineness of it all. But when he arrives on scene, Carl soon learns that the victim, Roddy Tebbit, is well over 7 feet tall, and although he doesn't look a day over 30, he is 91 years old. Interesting. Tebbit is a Titan, one of this dystopian near-future society's genetically altered elites, and this case is definitely Carl's thing. There's only a few thousand Titans worldwide, thanks to Stefan Tonfamakaska's discovery of the controversial T7 genetic therapy, which elevated his family to godlike status. T7 turns average humans into near immortal distortions of themselves with immense physical proportions to match their ostentatious, unreachable lifestyles. A dead Titan is big news. A murdered Titan is unimaginable. Ooh. But these modified magnets are Carl's speciality. In fact, his own ex-girlfriend, Athena, is a Titan, and not just any, she is Stefan's daughter, heir to the massive Tonfamakaska empire. As the murder investigation intensifies, Carl begins to unravel the complicated threads of what should have been a straightforward case, and it becomes clear he's on the trail of a crime whose roots run deep into the dark heart of the world. So, I thought that sounded a wee bit interesting, and it's a cool cover, and I like the title. Titanium Noir by Nick Harkaway. So not somebody I've ever heard of. I don't even know how recent this book is. It looks pretty damn new. 2023, yep, so it's new. It's a wee first edition. It's got a William Gibson go on the front, so that's a reasonably good sign. So a wee bit of sci-fi. Sounds a bit kind of cyberpunkish. Yeah. So I picked that up, and I'm going to add that on to the end of the queue at the moment and get reading that in the not too distant future. So really looking forward to seeing what that's all about. Might be good, might be bad. It's something I've never heard of, an author I've never heard of, which is always a great thing to find something you read that you've never read before. So yeah, that's the other one on the pile. Now, what we're all here for. The Stand by Stephen King. So as I said earlier, this is a book that has been recommended many times, both people I know and watching various videos on YouTube. And for many years it has been a recommended novel. I've never watched the TV series, the various TV shows that have been made of it. Stephen King doesn't often translate well to the screen, I find, so I tend to not bother with them for the most part. But I've had this, it's like a copy that I picked up that there was no dust jacket, so I wasn't going to sell it. I've sold this book many times. It's like a BCA edition, no dust jacket, not really much value to it. So I never listed it. I thought, oh, well, I might as well read it. I keep hearing about it. If I read it, maybe it's going to be one of these, but it'll be like, oh, great. So I haven't read a great book for quite a long time. I've read some really good books, but it's a long time since I've picked up a great book. Again, like the Blake Crouch ones I was talking about, where you can't put it down. I mean, you just have to, whatever you're doing, you're washing the dishes with one hand because you're reading it, you're cooking the dinner, you're walking the dog, you're not driving the car, take that back. Whatever you're doing, you just cannot stop reading it, and I've been desperate to find something like that. The last real series that I found like that was Game of Thrones. So I've always got them handy, haven't I? George Martin, he writes like that. So the Game of Thrones series, Fever Dream, that's about all I've read of George Martin, I'll be perfectly honest. But of those, you just once I get into one of these, I just can't stop reading it. It's brilliantly written, the pacing's magnificent, it's just near perfection. And after I read the full Game of Thrones series, because I started after the TV show, before I watched the TV show, but I did start reading them after the TV show came out, because I was kind of, what's all this about? So that's quite a few years ago. The prequel that came out, The Knights of the whatever it was, again, bit lighter, but a great read. But there's so few books, so few authors that really, I find, drag you in like that and do not let you go. Cormac McCarthy, I find, is one. For me, this is all personal taste and choice, obviously. George Martin, another. Some Stephen King does that. For example, It. C'est magnifique. But I'll talk a bit more about It in a wee second when I get back to The Stand. But very, very few books that have dragged me in that way, and they just don't let you go. Keep hold of you. I read Dune late last year, and it was really good, but I could read up to a point and think, yeah, that's enough for now, and put it down. Whereas I'm always looking for that book where once I get started, I can't leave that world. I have to see it through to the extent that it starts interfering with normal life. Love it. That's what you want. And there's so few out there that do that. There's lots of things that you can just sit and read and pulp through. You get page turners, your wee thrillers and your page turners, but it would just keep jumping on to the next chapter to see what happens. But when you put it down, you forget about it until you pick up again. The difference between those, which Greg Hurwitz, who I spoke about the other day, he's some great page turning books, but if I sit it down, I can forget about it for a week, not think about it. George Martin, those Blake Crouch books, The Wayward Pines, those, when I'm not reading them, I'm thinking about them and I want to get back to them. So I've been looking for that kind of book, and I kind of hoped that The Stand might have been that. I've heard a lot about it. I had been warned that the first kind of half, 2/3 of the book is pretty much just following survivors towards the third act. So was expecting that. I've read plenty of Stephen King books where he spends an age just kind of going through the motions with characters, but it's engrossing. It's really well written when you get that type of thing, and it works really well. It is a great example of that. There's a lot of kind of everydayness in it, and like The Stand, it's quite dated because it's set in a particular time. But with it, there was always an underlying sense of dread, and you never knew when that dread was going to turn into real horror in the world these characters were living in up in Derry, Maine. And that worked really well. And, you know, because he jumped about between the timelines, you know, the adulthood, childhood, flashbacks within each, it kept you on edge, and it was a really good balance, and it ran through nicely. Other Stephen King books that have done things similar, Hearts in Atlantis was a very mundane, I suppose, story from that point of view, and it was a lot of the same stuff, but again, it was really beautifully written, and it was well balanced how that was constructed. Fairy Tale, first half of Fairy Tale is very much the same. You know, it's just some young lad, quite a stereotypical character. There was no great depth to any of them, but it was intriguing enough that it kept you going, and you wanted to see how that relationship developed, you know, between the young guy and the old man and the dog. And then it turned into the fairy tale, which I still quite enjoyed, although I've heard quite a few people slating it. Quite a few others have done stuff similar to that, and a lot of the time it works reasonably well if it's the right balance and it keeps the momentum going. But The Stand, I'm not finishing it. I've made it to page 432, chapter 45. I got to chapter 45, and what a plod. It just keeps trundling on and on and on. The characters, none of them are particularly interesting. None of them, I don't care about any of them. I've managed to remember a couple of the names: Nick Andros, Larry Underwood. That's it. I don't recall who anybody else is. And when they were popping up again, I was having to scratch my head quite hard, going, who the hell are they? None of their stories are relatable in any way whatsoever. Yes, it's dated. He wrote it in the 70s, and it's impressive for a young man to have, you know, put together such a tome. But I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not impressed by kind of naive ramblings. And the pacing is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. The world building is non-existent. It's just, maybe if you were again reading it at the time, it would be much more relatable, because the wee bits of world building that's in there, you'd be able to relate to your own kind of middle of America experience. I don't have that. I've never had that, and we're now in 2024, so it's gone from that point of view. Characters, again, incredibly shallow, not interesting at all, not jumping on any kind of woke bandwagon, but a lot of the opinions, sensibilities, whatever's going on are just unnecessarily distasteful. And I know some things can get used that you are offensive, but they're there for a reason, you know, to, you know, explain why something is wrong. But what's in this from that point of view, it doesn't work at all. I've read many Stephen King books, like I say, and he's never written women well, I don't think. There's not many stories where he's written a good female character. Carrie's maybe a slight exception. Carrie's mum, spot on. Misery, yeah, he got it there, but they were very pigeonholed characters, so although they weren't just bland stereotypes, they had a very, very specific purpose within the story, and that's what they were built around, so that worked. And this, they're just not interesting. So I say, slogged through 400 odd pages. It's not badly written. I wasn't not enjoying it, but I would read 20 pages and think, God, is that enough for now? and I better read another 20 so that I can get through this book, which is no reason to be reading a book just to get through it. You know, just waiting for the pace to pick up, for something a wee bit interesting to drag me in, to make me want to know what was coming next. But it just wasn't happening. So Stephen King's The Stand is mince. It's not the worst book I will ever read, I'm quite sure of that. But if I'm not enjoying a book, if it's not giving me something back for the effort I'm putting in, the time I'm putting in, what's the point? I can go and watch an episode of Invincible on Amazon and get 20 times the entertainment, the depth of thoughts, whatever it is you want to talk about from that, rather than sitting plodding through another 60 pages of The Stand. Maybe it gets better towards the end. Maybe it's, you know, it really starts coming together. But so far, the most frustrating thing, we've got one character who's fled New York, and he gets a motorbike, and he takes off on the motorbike with somebody he's picked up, riding pillion with him. They die, and suddenly he's scared of the motorbike, so he's only going at 15 mile an hour. So rather than getting some big road hog and banging on at 60 mile an hour to get where they need to go so that the story can move on, it starts crawling, and it doesn't build anything, it doesn't add anything. And then when that was still moving too fast, he dumps it and gets a bicycle. You know, I get that, and you can kind of see it from a young man's point of view. You've got to that stage, the world's coming to an end, so bikes would actually be a fantastic mode of transportation. But it slowed it down even more. And now they're all on blooming bikes, pedalling thousands of miles across America to reach their destination. It's just, I mean, what are you all thinking saying that this is a great book? It's hard work, not because it's deep and intellectual or there's lots of, you know, complex characters around there. It's hard work because it's just bloody boring. Do you know what it reminds me of? The later Harry Potter books, where J.K. Rowling was obviously given free rein to just write and publish whatever the hell she wanted. And there was one sequence where I think it was Harry, Ron and Hermione, and they were just teleporting about the countryside, camping in different places, and it felt like it went on for hundreds of pages. And then they went here and they set up camp, and oh, it was dark. And then they went here and they set up camp, and oh, it was raining. Oh, and then they went here and they set up camp, and it was a little bit sunny. Oh! I actually skipped a huge chunk of whatever book that was. It was definitely maybe one of the last two, because it was just pointless. It added nothing. It was, and that's what this feels like. It could be that I could just go to maybe, is that part 3? Yes, go to part 3, which would be the last 300-400 pages, I think. Where are we? The stand. Oh, on the border. Oh, come on, where is it? Where does it start? So I go to about page 800, get to book 3, page 813 in this copy, and read the last couple of hundred pages, and maybe that would be quite good. But the thought of going 800 pages, so as much again as I've already read, just to get to a good bit of the book, no, 2 weeks it's taken me to read that because I'm just not into it. So I put it down and I moved on to the next book I had in my pile waiting to be read, which was looking for that kind of George Martin feeling. So I picked up, again I bought it on Amazon because I wasn't seeing them anywhere, Joe Abercrombie, A Little Hatred, the first in a trilogy. So if it's good, great. If it's not, I don't get the other books. And the Age of Madness trilogy, that's what it is. So I started it Saturday afternoon. I had to stop myself reading it yesterday so that I would have some to read today. I am fully invested in what's going on. The world building's great, the characters are fantastic, the humour spot on. You really do, well, I really do have a bit of empathy towards a lot of the characters in this. Some of them are utterly despicable, but they still sit within enough of that grey area, very much like a lot of George Martin's characters, where yeah, they're despicable people, but there's aspects that could be their saving grace. Thoroughly enjoying it, absolutely loving it. So if anybody wants a good read, I would recommend this, definitely. I can't wait to sit down and finish it later on today. So there's about 100 pages to go, so I thought, yep, that's where I need to stop, give myself that good wee final run. And that's what I was looking for with The Stand, but it just ain't happening. So moving on to that. After that, I'm going to read Lonesome Dove, so fingers crossed that that's not a disappointment like The Stand. Sometimes the issue when you get a big book that there's too much padding that it impacts on the pace. Not true with all big books. Again, George Martin, he's got some absolute beasts, but they keep it going. So I'm hoping Lonesome Dove does the same, and then I'll be moving on to either Blake Crouch, N.K. Jemisin, or the Titanium Noir book that I was just flashing about a moment ago. So yeah, I know a lot of people will disagree with me, probably most people, but Stephen King's The Stand sucks. It's boring, it's flat, doesn't seem to be going anywhere. The characterizations are pants, the world building is incredibly disappointing. It's just not for me. And on that note, thank you all for watching, subscribing, all the rest. I have turned off the ads midstream in my videos going forward, because it's just, there's too many. Every couple of minutes there's something else, which I know when I'm watching videos myself tends to be where I'm not like 100% invested in what I'm watching. I'll just come back out of it and go and start something else and watch the first couple of minutes of it until the ads kick in and then go and watch something else. So I've turned them off. Now, ad revenue on YouTube is a big deal for, you know, getting some sort of income in. I've not got a huge number of views in any of my videos. I don't have thousands and thousands or millions of subscribers, so there's not a lot there, but I've still been quite surprised. From being kind of £5 to £6 a day in ad revenue earning from the videos I'm putting out, it's gone down to 60p. So quite a dramatic drop, turning off those ads midstream. So I hope you appreciate it, because it's costing me a pint of milk and a loaf of bread every day. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm going to leave them off because I'm hoping it does increase people's ability to enjoy, get something out of these videos. And all I need is like 10 times as many people watching them. So instead of 1,000 a day, let's get up to 10,000 views a day. I don't think I get 10,000 impressions a day from YouTube, and that'll make up for the loss of income from taking out the midstream ads. Anyway, this has been nearly half an hour of me talking rubbish about books, slagging off one of the, in my opinion, best authors ever. Just unfortunate that book is mince. And that's us. So see ya. Love ya. Bye.